You think of Apple today and you think, unstoppable, right? A titan. But what if I told you they were once just weeks away from disappearing forever? That's the story we're diving into today, how Apple almost failed. I know it's kind of hard to wrap your head around now, but this was the reality. Forget the iPhone, forget everything you know about this global empire. For a while there, Apple was a story of just free-falling sales, totally broken leadership, and a future so bleak, people weren't asking if it would fail, they were asking when. So what went so wrong? Well, for one, the entire tech world was shifting under their feet. In the early 90s, you had this flood of new competitors jumping into the ring. Then, by the middle of the decade, PCs started getting way cheaper, more standardized. And Apple, the company that was always the unique one, the leader, suddenly they were just struggling to stand out in the crowd. But look, those outside pressures, that was only half the battle. The real threat, the thing that was really killing them, it wasn't coming from their competitors. No, it was coming from inside the building. The problem wasn't their tech. They had great tech. The problem was just total, devastating confusion. And that confusion, it just bred chaos. I mean, Apple was literally drowning in its own products. They had so many models that looked almost the same. Nobody, not even their own people sometimes, could tell them apart. There was no clear roadmap, so customers had no idea what to buy. And developers were like, which machine are we even supposed to be building for? The company was busy, all right, but it was busy going nowhere. They had completely lost the plot. And this is the moment, right? In a crisis, you look to your leaders for a plan. You need direction. But as the pressure cranked up, Apple's leadership, well, they stumbled. Big time. Instead of making things clear, they just added more complexity. Instead of making those bold moves Apple was famous for, they got scared. They got slow. And losing that vision, man, it had a huge effect. Think about it. Apple, the company built on thinking different and changing the world, was now just reacting to it. They were playing defense. And without that strong guiding voice at the top, the whole company just drifted. So as you can imagine, the numbers started to look really, really ugly. Their market share, which used to be this massive point of pride, was just in a total freefall. Customers were jumping ship, and of course, Wall Street noticed. Investor confidence, it just collapsed. And we're not talking about a small dip here. This was a death spiral. Apple was just bleeding cash, losing money quarter after quarter after quarter. It was completely unsustainable. And then it gets even worse. This is the moment of truth. At rock bottom, it was reported that Apple had just 4 weeks of cash left. Not months, weeks. Bankruptcy wasn't some far-off threat anymore. It was literally knocking on the door. The rest of the tech world, they were already writing Apple's obituary.
So how do you come back from that? I mean, when you were staring right into the abyss, what does it actually take to pull yourself back from the edge? Well, this is where the whole story changes.
What they needed was a serious wake-up call. A moment of brutal, painful honesty. And here's the hard truth they had to face. Apple didn't need another new product idea. It didn't need more innovation. What it needed was discipline. The game wasn't about growth anymore. It was about pure, focused survival. So they came up with a new game plan, a pivot to survival. It was pretty simple, but brutal. Step 1, eliminate all the distractions. That meant ruthlessly slashing that huge, confusing product line down to just a handful of key models. Step 2, protect the core. Protect the stuff that actually made Apple, well, Apple. Their design, their core tech. And finally, step 3, every single decision had to pass a simple test. Just one question, does this help us survive, and does it create real value for our customers? If the answer was no, it was gone. And you know what? That's why Apple is still here today. It wasn't luck. It was a deliberate, probably painful, but absolutely necessary change. They were forced to learn a hard lesson, that innovation without focus just leads to chaos, and that sometimes simplicity is the most powerful weapon you have. So when you boil it all down, the company really stood at a crossroads. One path led to failure. That was the path of unfocused growth. More complexity, more caution. But the other path, the path to survival, the one they took, was paved with discipline, simplicity, and absolute clarity. Honestly, it's a lesson that applies to just about any business, even today. And in the end, that brush with death, it turned out to be the most important thing that ever happened to them. Failure didn't end Apple. It completely reshaped it. It forged the company into the focused, disciplined, and powerful giant that we all know today. But just surviving, that was only the beginning of the story. Because what came next was the single decision that didn't just save Apple,
but actually launched it into the stratosphere and turned it into the empire it is now. And we're going to get into that in our next chapter.
So if you want to catch that story and uncover more of these hidden histories from the world's biggest brands, you know what to do. Make sure you're subscribed to CorpFile. Thanks for hanging out with us.